What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the best Stormwave monk build in Path of Exile 2. So in this guide I will give you a quick overview of the setup, then I will explain what gem skills and upgrades should you focus on. Then as well we'll see what is the best gear and how to get it for both the mid game and any game. And then finally we will go over the passive tree, attributes, your skill rotations, and even what Atlas passive should you use, so we would be able to get the highest damage possible and much more. If you're looking for this build on the website, then click my link in this video's description or the pinned comment. This setup is known as the Lightning Storm Monk build, which uses the acolyte of Chayula ascendancy to allow you to embrace the darkness by sacrificing spirits. This build will offer a unique playstyle focused on storm damage and the manipulation of the darkness powers. With the strong defensive capabilities of Embrace the Darkness, as well as the Life and Energy Shield Leech, the Acolyte of Chayula will offer a great set of tools for survival, but where the huge drawback usually was in his lack of damage. So I did a lot of hours of testing and now we finally have a build that can easily compete and even outperform the Invoker Monk builds. So if you're ready for this simple enough build that only requires for you to spam 2-3 buttons and then obliterate anyone and everyone that stands in your way, then this is the one for you. So let me show you the build, and for the main class I have chosen to go with the monk, and our ascendancy is the acolyte of Chayula. Then for the first skill we have the Gathering Storm with the support gems such as the Overcharge, Lightning Exposure and the Coursing Torrent. Then second we got the Siphoning Strike with the Profusion and the Culling Strike. Then next we got the Charge Staff with the Perpetual Charge, Persistence, Withering Touch and the Overpower. Next we have the Tempest Belt with Magnified Effect, Rage and Overabundance. Next we are also using the Tempest Fury with the Close Combat, Crescendo and the Martial Tempo. Next we have the Storm Wave with the Conduction, Lightning Infusion and Primal Armament. Then we got the Ghost Dance with the Fast Forward and Precision. Next we have the Wind Dancer with the Maim and the Blind. And finally for the last one we got the Herald of the Thunder with the Innervate and the Shock Siphon. Most of this build is structured around using the Charge Staff and the Tempest Belt to instantly delete enemies, so we use gems and skills that will support and increase their area and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you're interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guides. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start at the skill speed node and make our way like this until we get the flow like the water and the essence of the storm. Next up we continue making our way like this and get the crashing wave and the momentum truth. Then next we want to keep going up until this point and then now take the right until we unlock both these nodes. So the exposed to the storm and the wild storm. Then from here we want to get more crit chance, and we mainly can do it in two places. So first we circle back a little and get these two nodes, and then from here again let's go to the top right corner and we want to unlock all of these blue nodes. And then finally from this point and onwards you can unlock the rest of the nodes in whatever order you prefer. All of the nodes that we got are important, but the ones I mentioned have the top priority, as they're the most important ones to acquire early on in the game to make our build functional, and in the late game to make it even more powerful. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for our ascendancy build this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to unlock the Walking Dream, then next get the Lucid Dream. Then from here for the third option we get the Reality Rending, and then finally for the last fourth option we want to go with the Chayula's Gift. Some players also prefer to go with the more mana leech instead of the resistance, but that's why in the main tree we spend few points on the mana, so then we could easily utilize our ascendancy to the max and get the Chayula's Gift. In PoE 2, earning skill points take a lot of hard work, so it will be wise not to spend your points recklessly. Of course you can refund your passive points later, but only at a cost. So following a specific setup is extremely useful. If you are following this build, then make sure not to deviate from it, as some of the decisions that I made might not make sense at first, but is going to pay off later. So feel free to use this exact same path as I have right here. And don't forget to check this video's description to find the link for this website, and this should make it easier for you to follow the tree. Next up we have our Atlas passives, and the general idea behind this is to aim for bonus passives that will spawn a lot of grouped up monsters, such as the expeditions or the rituals. Also, our Lightning Monk has a very strong single target damage, so farming boss maps or essences is also a good option. So when we start we want to first of all get this bottom left side like this, then now we go to the top right side and get all of these passives. And then finally from here you want to go to this top middle part and get the rest of the passives in no particular order. Then next we have our gear. The weapon of our choice is the Expert Slicing Quarterstaff. This is the most important item and you want to acquire a high physical or lightning damage. Overall most players can choose between 3 options, so go either way with the Expert Crescent, as it is the highest performing one due to the charged staff giving a ton of flat lightning damage. Then next you can also go with the Slicing Quarterstaff, which I've chosen for myself, as it is one of the easier items to get and has the highest DPS per hit. Or then lastly we can as well get the Gothic Quarterstaff, which has the highest crit rate. All of these options have positives and negatives, so choose whichever one you get first or the specific bonus that you need. And then for more bonuses we want increased physical damage, more accuracy, increased attack speed and or increased critical hit chance. Then for the helmet we have the Expert Feather Tiara with the energy shield. And for more stats we want max life, evasion and chaos resistance. Then for the chest we have the Expert Studded Vest with a lot of evasion. And for bonuses we want even more evasion, max life and cold resistance. Then for belt we have our utility belt that recovers our flask 20% quicker. And for bonus stats we want more max life, 1 charm slot and the fire resistance. Then for gloves we got the Expert Gauze Wraps with the evasion and energy shield. And for extras we want max life, max mana and fire resistance. And by the way, if you ever run into the mana problem, then just equip few more mana regen stats, or just cast few less charged staffs until you recover. But our specific build should not be struggling if you use decent enough gear. Then for boots we are using the Expert Frayed Shoes with evasion and energy shield. And for more we need increased movement speed, more evasion and max life. Then for our first ring we got the Ruby Ring with fire resistance, and for more we want max life and cold resistance. While on the second one we got the Sapphire Ring with cold resistance, and for the extras we want to get lightning resistance and more critical hit chance. And then finally for the amulet we got the Bloodstone Amulet with max life, even more critical hit chance and more percentage to all elemental resistances. Then next we have runes. During early item progression most gear is socketed with resistance runes like the Desert Rune, Glacial Rune or the Storm Rune. Once elemental resistances have been capped and elemental resistance runes are no longer necessary, then you want to opt in to increase their maximum life with body runes or consider socketing a soul core. So in a quick summary, for the weapon we are using the Iron Rune. Then on our helmet we have the Glacial Rune, as the game just launched, so this is the starter setup, which should be more of an example of what stats and prefixes to look for. And as far as getting this gear goes, by far the best way to get better gear in the campaign is to check the vendor in the town each time you level up, as vendors change their offerings based on your level, so this is the best way to find upgrades. If you are desperately in the need of a weapon upgrade, then you can also check the previous act vendors, and then after you get to level 65, then you want to keep on doing and repeating your maps until tier 16. And again, for more in-depth guides, check out my gearing guide video. Then on top of this, we need to quickly look into the charms. Charms are incredibly useful, as by having the right one equipped at the right time can save you from dying. If you are struggling with certain bosses, then look into what damage type they are using, and then use that specific charm to increase your resistance. For me personally, I like to use the Stone Charm for stuns, then the Taving Charm for when I become frozen, and then finally the Amethyst Charm for chaos damage. But as I said, which one you choose will entirely depend on the enemies that you are fighting, so feel free to experiment and mix and match. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. So pretty much, all monks have proven that by using the charged staff, it will give you an insane damage buff that is worth investing into by keeping a high uptime. It's also important to make sure that you're using the Gathering Storm on mob bosses and the pinnacles, to apply a shock through its shocked ground and exposure through the lightning exposure. And finally, the last important skill is the Tempest Belt, as he can do his own damage each time it gets hit, and this is the majority of our single target DPS. So the general gameplay of this build is pretty straightforward, and no matter which rotation you're doing, always have the charged staff active pretty much 24/7. And for weak enemies like we have right here, you can simply spam 2 buttons, so the Siphoning Strike for mobility and the Storm Wave for clearing the mob packs. And then second, for single targets, we can also use the Tempest Fury with the Tempest Belt, while also using the Gathering Storm to massively debuff the boss. So let me know what you think about this build in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, then you definitely don't want to miss my top 3 most OP builds video, where I showed even more powerful builds. So click the screen now and I'll see you in the next one.